千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. At this point, we now have enough information to depict the 3 steps that Lao Tzu suggests for everyone to become more like the ancient masters. I would say that anyone who makes a genuine effort to take these steps cannot help but get closer to the ideal as demonstrated by the ancients. So let me lay them out for you in this fashion. The image that you see here is that of a Tao practitioner, his reflection in the water. This is a depiction on step 1 from stillness to clarity. It is in stillness that we can regain the clarity that we possessed before. Human beings are naturally drawn to stillness, and by stillness, what I mean is tranquility, peacefulness, quiet moments. So Zhuangzi has written something about this. He wrote something that Confucius has said. Now, Zhuangzi in his works have written a great deal about Confucius. But let me just share with everyone that Zhuangzi and Confucius were not contemporaries. They did not live around the same time. Specifically, Confucius passed away about 110 years before Zhuangzi, the sage who would become Zhuangzi, was born. And Lao Tzu was even before that. Lao Tzu was estimated to have passed away roughly 150 years before the time of Zhuangzi. Therefore, to Zhuangzi, both Confucius and Lao Tzu were the ancient practitioners of previous generations. They predated him by multiple generations, around 5 or 6 generations. Now, Zhuangzi wrote extensively, as I said, about Confucius as well as Lao Tzu. With Lao Tzu, Zhuangzi expressed a great deal of respect, just as Lao Tzu expressed respect for those who were ancient to him. With Confucius, Zhuangzi has praise, but also some lighthearted criticism. And this is because Confucius had veered off into a direction where he put strictures and rules and limits, which began to pull away from the nature of the Tao itself. Nevertheless, what Confucius studied, and he saw himself as a disciple of Lao Tzu, Confucius studied the Tao tradition of the ancients as well. He was brilliant in doing so. And Zhuangzi wrote about what Confucius said. These are the lines, these are the original text from the writings of Zhuangzi. Let me translate these lines for you line by line. First line is Confucius says. Second line says, one would not use flowing water as a mirror. So you can see that this makes sense because you and I would also not look into flowing water and think that we can get a good reflection of ourselves. It cannot serve as a mirror. The next line says, when we use still water for that purpose, if you want to check out your own reflection, you will look at still water to see yourself in it, see yourself looking back at you. Then Zhuangzi concludes, only still water can give one pause. On the face of it, this means only still water can make people stop and look, to look at themselves, to check their appearance. Now, let me also share with everyone, this passage is not really about still water or one's reflection in it. It's a poetic way, it's a poetic reference that is just like the metaphor of muddy water settling down and becoming clear. It is really about the stillness of the mind. Laozi was said to have taught that people naturally prefer the peaceful and tranquil. It is in the same mindset as this line right here. It is because when the mind is chaotic, you and I, we cannot reflect upon ourselves. Our thoughts are full of that chaos and concerns and anxieties. We cannot focus and think about how we are, how we have been. It is only when your mind quiets down that you can actually do that. You can perceive yourself accurately in your mind, just like you can look at still water to see an accurate reflection of you. So just like still water causing people to stop, to look at themselves, see how they look, to check, is my hair messy? Is the hat on straight? And so on. Stillness of the mind becomes a spiritual mirror that causes us to pause, to reflect, and think about what we have done, how we have been. This process, quieting or stilling the mind, is what gives us mental and spiritual clarity. And this is obvious from the clarity of the reflection that we can get from still water, hence the graphic that you see here. And I think you will find that this is reflected, no pun intended, on your own experience. You have experienced how when things are quiet and you feel peace of mind, that you can relax, perhaps even breathe a sigh of relief. That is when you can really be in touch with yourself. I would therefore recommend that it is important to commit to a consistent, regular practice of being serene, of engaging in serenity. This can be personal reflection, it can be meditation, or both. When it comes to meditation, you have a range of options. It's not just sitting meditation. You can also turn everyday activities into a meditative practice. What I personally do, engage in on a regular basis, will be things like meditative writing, meditative walking. There's also Tai Chi, Qi Gong. These are what practitioners would call Zen within movement. That is, the body is in motion, but the mind is tranquil. All of these make us understand what Lao Tzu meant when he wrote, "Who can be muddled yet desist? In stillness, gradually become clear." Remember the muddiness settling as you quiet down. That's the key. This leads to the second step. The second step is like the yin and yang duality with the first. In the first, we talk about quieting down, regaining clarity. In the second step, it says, come alive with actions. This is equally important because the stillness of the Tao is not inaction or passivity. Sometimes people have mistaken the meaning of Wu Wei, unattached actions. They think that it means being inactive or passive. But the Tao is not just about meditation, sitting in silent reflection. That is only part of the practice. We want to keep in mind that the Tao is the source. The Tao is the void that produces all things. Therefore, extending from that, it is also the source of creativity and inspiration. What I mean by that is the spiritual serenity where you connect with the Tao is also where inspiration will spontaneously come into your mind. And I know some of you who engage in a meditative practice, you have already seen or experienced this for yourself. And the way that these things show up can vary. Some of them take the form of a brand new realization or insights, like a deeper understanding that springs into your mind. It just materializes out of nowhere. Some of them take the form of ideas that inspire you to take action. Now, as I said, it's different for everyone, but as you perfect this practice, you will, one way or another, emerge from it knowing exactly what you ought to do. So tranquil clarity actually leads to dynamic Tao-centric actions. Hence this bullet. You emerge from stillness with motivation and direction. There's energy in that, and you know which direction to take. So you take purposeful action leading to meaningful results. And in this process, you're not discouraged by the task being lengthy or monumental in scope. You see it as a long journey that you must walk step by step, or the frozen river that you must cross, where every step is taken with care. The bottom line is that you literally come alive in the life you were meant to live. And this is why Lao Tzu wrote, "Who can be serene yet persist in motion, gradually come alive." I think you can see that this line makes a lot of sense. This is step 2. What about step 3? Step 3, 不盈, not overfilled, is the Tao of humility. So the two steps that we have talked about, it's a process that takes you closer to the ancient masters. As a result of having done them, following them consistently, you see what it's like to be similar to the ancient masters. You begin to understand how they approach their lives, and you live your life the same way. You begin to see and understand how they interacted with people around them, and you do the same thing. You begin to embody all the connections to water. We have seen the metaphor, water that is muddy settling down to become clear. When it is settled, when the water is still, it provides a clear reflection. It is the still water that gives one pause, so you will stop and look at yourself. Then, elsewhere in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu talks about water as a powerful symbol of humility. It flows to the lowly places, not the high profile. And again, with water, never overfilling a cup, never becoming too full of yourself. This is the Tao of humility. As you align yourself with the ancient masters more and more, becoming humble is the most natural thing in the world. And this is why Lao Tzu wrote, because one is not overfilled because of humility, therefore one can preserve and not create anew. And as a reminder, an important reminder, to preserve in this context is to honor the legacy of the ancients, to follow in their footsteps, to keep in mind the examples that they have set. Now, you and I can see why this 不盈, not overfilled, is the title of this chapter. There is a lot of meaning behind that. Now, let us bring all three steps together in one slide to see how they lead you to become more like the ancient masters. In this slide, we have the ancient masters on the right and the self-reflective Tao practitioner on the left. The goal is to go from the left to the right. Here are the three steps that we have discussed so far. First, you settle your mind in stillness to regain your clarity. Then, you are inspired to take Tao-centric actions. And finally, you can see the positive results. With each day that passes, you'll understand the ancients better than before. Rather than to make you full of yourself, this has the opposite effect. It makes you more convinced than ever that you need to remain humble, delve deeper, and learn more. Now, let us see how the steps tie in to the characteristics that we wish to cultivate for ourselves. Step 1, about clarity. Having gained clarity from settling down, becoming still and tranquil, it leads you to become mindfully aware, as if crossing a river, and conscientious, following the dictates of your conscience, as if you are being watched. Now, when you are inspired to come alive with actions, you begin to interact with people, and we can see a clear connection here that you interact with others with serious intent and dignified behavior, like being an honored guest, what Lao Tzu calls solemn. And you interact with others with personal warmth, like the spring breeze that melts winter ice. And you interact with others with simplicity. They never have to second guess what you really mean because you are simple, like a plain piece of wood. And finally, humility, being humble, understanding dawns on you. You have every reason in the world to be humble. Your attitude is open and accepting, like a valley. And you find yourself with the people, like mixing water with dust. And using this illustration here, I think we can see how everything in this chapter makes a great deal of sense. Everything in it is all connected as a whole. And now we can see the reason Lao Tzu wrote the lines, because one is not overfilled, therefore one can preserve and not create anew. You have all the reasons in the world as well to preserve the wisdom of the past, rather than to come up with something that's already been established for thousands of years. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.